Fadal.
Question, New Shahada. They attend narcotics NA meetings in a church. Is this permissible?
Questions regarding a new shahada attending NA meetings in the church is permissible. Yes, it's permissible. However, as soon as the program is done, they're finished, they've recovered, they've rebuilt, they should not go back to entering the church unless it's a necessity. And Allah knows best. Fadal. Question says, are you not allowed to enter church? A Muslim in general, especially nowadays in our modern times, has no need to enter a church. Period. There's no need to go into a church. There are plenty of masjids. There's Google. There are loads of masjids, places, let alone rest stops, in which your person can pray, sit, take a nap, whatever he wants. There is no need to enter a church. As far as in the time of the Sahaba, the certain narrations from Umar and Khattab and others, إِنَّا لَا نَدْخُلُ كَنَائِسَكُمْ إِلَّا لِمَا فِيهَا مِنَ السُّوَرِ. The narration of Umar and others that says, we refrain, we don't enter your churches, kana'is, because of the suwar, whether it's an idol or an actual drawn image painting of Isa, of his mother, of the angels, of the saints, etc. In other words, if there weren't these images, if it weren't these idols, then Umar is saying that we would enter the kanisa, whether it's for one reason or another. Hukum, qada, even if it's making salah. Even if it's making what? Salah, prayer. But today, there's so many masjids in which you don't need to go make prayer. Let alone I would say, and Allah knows best, the mutation of Christianity today. In the time of Umar and Khattab, there was shirk, there was kufr. They thought that Isa was the son, so on and so forth, many different things. However, it's not like today when a church has become a major place. The gold, the silver, the bronze, the paintings, the benches, the altar, and the list goes on. The mutation of Christianity. This year, this one, this saint, this person changed, do this, do that. So it's a difference. I don't think that the Kanisa in the time of Umar al-Khattab was like the Kanisa in the time nowadays. Not saying that there weren't things that are similar. For some person, حتى يأتي واحد يعترض. حديث سلمة. الكنيسة في الحبشة. في واحد يعترض بدون علم. Okay, not saying that there weren't certain things that were consistent, but I don't think it was the exact same as it is today. Okay, the commercialization of the church, just like the commercialization of Christmas. Christmas back then wasn't like what? Christmas today. It's night and day. Thanksgiving back then was not like what? Thanksgiving today. It mutated, it evolved, and it's something totally different. So therefore, not necessarily saying that it's haram to enter church, but there's no need to. Why? What do you need to go to church for? If it's a funeral of a dead family member, that's one thing. That's one thing. Everybody understand this? But there's no need for me to just go, I just want to walk into a church and sit. No. At the masjid. There's no need to go into a church. Wallahu a'lam. Fadal Nafis. Fadal.
Brother Idris from Toronto. Check me out. Bless you and grant you success. Which chain is considered stronger? Zuhri to Sa'id to Abu Hurairah, or the golden chain of Malik ibn Anas?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallah feek, Akhi Sheikh Idris, and all of the brothers and sisters of my beloved disciples and disciples in Toronto, Canada, and other places besides Toronto, Canada. May Allah bless you all and give you the success and make you even more diligent and even stronger. We say that this is a mas'ala khilafiyya inda ahl al-hadith. An issue of khilaf among the people of knowledge, asahul isnad, asahul hadith, asahul hadith, asahul isnad, asahul asanid. What are the most strong chains? What are the most authentic chains? Silsilat al-Dhahab, Malik, etc. It's khilaf among ulama. Ibn Ma'in, Imam Ahmad, Al-Bukhari, Imam Malik, they all had contrasting views with regards to as-sah al-asanid. What are the most authentic chains? As-salasil, al-mashhura. Everybody understand this? They had khilaf on these things. And they never agreed on one thing. So if they didn't agree on one thing, then it's not for me to come and necessarily make tarjih. Everybody understand this? That's first and foremost. Secondly is, what do they mean when they say asahul isnad, asahul asani, the most authentic chains? What do they mean by that? Al itlaq, of all of the thousands of hadith in Sahih Bukhari, how many times, or is in every place, is it the silsilat, al-dhahab, nafi', salim, so on and so forth, Ayub, Ubaidullah, the ruwat an Salim, the ruwat an Nafi', etc. Is it the same isnad, or he has several different asanid? Everybody understand this? So that what's meant by their statement asah al-asanid? Do they mean it absolutely, or they just mean it in general? Min asah al-asanid. From the most authentic asanid is fulan an fulan an fulan an Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fulan fulan an Ali, fulan an Abi Hurairah, fulan an Abbas, mathalan, for example. Point number 3, and it's the last point, is the strongest view, has been explained by Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar and others, is that the correct position, la yuqal, illa muqayyadan. We do not absolutely hold this view. And we say, asahul asanid an Abi Hurairah kada, asahul asanid an Abbas kada, asahul asanid an Ibn Umar kada, asahul asanid an Abi Sa'id al-Khudri kada. But not just say asahul asanid ala al-itlaq. Everybody in the whole entire dunya, this one isnad is what? Asahul asanid. That doesn't make too much sense. Because the things that Nafi' has, Salim has. Everybody understand this? A'raj, fulan, an Abi Hurairah. You don't say that. That's the strongest view. There does not exist asahul asanid. Abadan. Rather, asahul asanid muqayyadan. Restricted. Asahul asanid an Malik, Nafi' kada. Salim kada. Hakada. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Is it same? Is it allowed to take parts of hadith to support issues without considering the reason of why the Prophet ﷺ said or did an action?
Yes and no. Some hadiths are clear, simple, clear, easily understood, without a doubt. And there's some hadith which cannot be understood except in the specific context of which the hadith was. Some hadith abrogated, some hadith abrogated other things. Some hadith were general. It depends. And that's why the true student of knowledge, the true hadith disciple, is he who marries all of the sciences together. He blends them together. Memorizing the hadith, isnad of the hadith, authenticity of the hadith, usul al-fiqh, al-lugha al-arabiyyah, the madhahib of the ulama, adawat al-ijtihad, the tools of making your own ijtihad, the classical commentary. He does what? He melts them together and he forges one solid piece of metal. And that's the thing that he uses, that he swings. That's his sword. How many things go into the sword being made? This type of steel, this type of iron, this ashes, carbon, kava. He forges it what? Into one piece of what? Solid steel. And then he sharpens it and then he polishes it. Also, he has to learn swordsmanship, fencing. You have to know how to use it. That's the concept of hadith. Is that you take all of the sciences and you do what? Blend them and mold them together when you spit, quote unquote. Everybody got this? Giving a class, giving a khutbah, arguing, having a debate. When you what? Everybody got this? So therefore, just to take usul al-fiqh and not study hadith is a problem. Study hadith without usul al-fiqh is a what? That's a problem. He said he was weak in usul al-fiqh. Allahu alam about that, yahi. He got stronger, he got better. He went home, he studied more. Mumkin. Say he was weak in usul al-fiqh. Allah, say what? Allahu alam. Tell you, what's important is that this is what you should do. So once you have all of these different tools and all of these different techniques and all these different things, then you can quote a hadith and use it for proof. Make ihtijaj, make istidlal, make your own ijtihad. Giving nasiha and joining the good, forbidding the evil, or any type of fa'idah that you're given. So there's some hadiths that are what? Even though they're pertaining to a specific person, they have clear general meanings. The Prophet was asked, he says, La taghdab. Don't, he says, Awsini, give me advice. The Prophet said what? Don't become angry. There's no doubt. That hadith in Sahih Bukhari is pertaining to what? Shakhs, bi'aynihi. One man, specifically. However, we see, look at the wisdom, the hikmah, the illah of the hadith. Why did he say la taghdab? Because anger in general, Shaykh Amin, a good thing or a bad thing? In general, sometimes anger is good. But in general, you losing control. You having a bad temper. You snapping out and blacking out and flaring out. There's no doubt in every religion, every culture, that's generally what? Looked down upon. Even if it's a means of strength, it's still looked down upon because you're uncontrollable. You're my bodyguard, you're my bulldog, keep me safe, protect me from harm. But you're reckless now. You just snap out. Anybody look at me the wrong way, you just snap out. That's harmful to all of us. It embarrasses us all. Everybody listening about this? It's not what? It's not praiseworthy. Your anger has to be controlled. You let go of the dog when you want to let go of the dog. You take it off the leash, get him. And the dog snarls and growls and rips apart. And the moment you say what? You bring it back, your dog does what? And you put it back on the leash. Everybody understand this? There's no doubt about that. So just have a reckless, wild rage of anger is bad. So just because the Prophet said it to one man, and it was asked, the advice of one man does not mean that it is specific to what? One man. Everybody, it doesn't mean that it's what? Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this? Another example of this, which is not the case, is the famous issue, al-wa'ida wal-ma'udatu fi nar. It says that the wa'ida and the ma'uda are in the fire. The woman or the man that puts the baby in the ground, in the grave, that buries the baby alive, and the baby as well are both in the what? In the fire. It's clearly problematic. What was the baby's problem? The baby was put into the ground. What sin did the baby make? Why let it be burnt and tortured and punished? That hadith, ala fartihatihi, even saying that it's authentic, for those who say that it's authentic, that hadith is clearly what? Khas. To one issue. Everybody understand this? So there are some hadiths that are clearly general, some hadiths that are what? Clearly specific. And even if there's a specific hadith or general hadith, there are parts of the hadith. There are what? Specific parts of the hadith. Everybody understand this? The hadith of ifk, the long narration of when Aisha told the story about how she was slandered. There lies no doubt there are parts of the hadith that apply to every Muslim sister that's slandered of zina, or every Muslim man. And there are certain things that are what? Specific to Aisha, specific to what Ibn Mas'ud narrated, specific to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. How do you know what is general, what's specific? When the ulama differ over what's general and specific, illa bil fiqh. You yourself have to learn. You yourself have to determine. You yourself have to know. Kayf tumayyiz, kayf tufarriq. How do you split up? How do you put back together? You have to have the necessary what? Necessary tools. And from those tools is the lugha al-arabiyya, strong Arabic language. بما في ذلك النحو الصرف البلاغة الأدب العربي, poetry, sarf, morphology, nahwa, you got to be strong in that. Obviously, then we have al-usul, usul al-fiqh. What's aam, what's khas, what's mutlaq, what's muqayyid, nasikh, mansukh. Everybody says hukm wad'i. What's fasid, what's batil, mubah. What's the difference between mandub and mustahab? Everybody understand this? قول الصحابي هجة. ما المقصود بالمصالح المرسلة؟ مش هذا الكلام أصلا. You have to know what that is. You can only learn about studying what? أصول الفقه. And you have القواعد الفقهية. إن المشقة تجلب التيسير. لا حرام عند الضرورة ولا واجب عند العجز. وإيش معنى هذا الكلام أصلا؟ كيف نطبق هذا الكلام في 2017? Unless you study what? قواعد. No, we don't أصول الفقه. أصول الفقه and قواعد الفقهية are what? Two different things. أصول الفقه is the theoretical principles to apply the specific what? Dalil. The dalil for specific rulings. قواعد فقهية in themselves are considered adilla, dalil. It's a dalil, tufti biha, tahkum biha. But it's not ayah or hadith, but it is a solid column that has been extracted from the ayat and the hadith that pertains to any time and any place. إن المشقة تجلب التيسير. Al-ada muhakkama. مثلا, customs of the people takes precedence. A brother, he comes into your office, your imam office, he says, his wife, and they complain. She says, my husband, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't take me out to dinner. I cook every single night. He never takes me out. I want to go out once a month, once every 3 months, once a year. He's cheap. He doesn't take me out to the restaurant at all. We don't have to go to the khamr restaurant, halal restaurant. He doesn't take me out. No, we're not going to the restaurant. And the brother, he says, my imam told me I don't have to take my wife to the restaurant. It's not mandatory. There's no ayah. There's no hadith. There's no ijma'. There's no qiyas. And the one in the masjid, he says, in al-ada ish, muhakkama. That the custom is the judge. Where we come from, it is well known from time to time, occasionally, the good treatment of a wife is for him to do what? Take her out to dinner. Not every single night, not every week, not every month, but from time to time. She slaves in the kitchen, she cooks, she cleans, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Take her out. And if you don't take her out, she's not going to be happy, she's not going to be pleased. So as if taking her out to dinner, as if it's what? Mandatory. Why is that? There's no dalil for that. Al-ada ish. And it's the ada of the people. It's the what? It's the custom of the people. Everybody knows this. Methalan, for example. So this is a specific ruling that he's making based off of a general what? Qaida. And that's not usul al-fiqh. The asl, inna al-asl fil awamir al-wujub. Then you have an amr, sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. So now everything that the Prophet did is now what? Mandatory. Based off of what? The command, sallu. How do we know that sallu necessitates wujub? Except from usul al-fiqh. So usul al-fiqh and qawaid fiqhiyya are what? شتان ما بين العلمين يشتبه على كثير من الطلبة. Many people are confused. Usul al-fiqh and qawaid fiqhiyya are what? Two different things. Also fiqh, the next tool is not usul al-fiqh, nor is it qawaid fiqhiyya. You use them, or perhaps you may not use them. There's a fiqh without no ijtihad, no istidlal. I sit down and I memorize this book, Al-Hidayah, mathalan. I memorize a book in Hanafi fiqh, or Shafi'i fiqh, or Hanbali fiqh. I memorize the book. Someone comes and says, yeah, Sheikh, can I divorce my wife while she's menstruating? I say, la. That's it. That is what? That's fiqh. I gave him a ruling. It's haram to divorce your menstruating wife. That's a what? It's a ruling. Why is it haram? What's the dalil? ما هو وجه الاستدلال؟ ليس عندي لكن قد أفتيت وأخبرت. Everybody understand this? That's a ruling. It's a fiqh ruling. So a faqih does not have to be a what? A mujtahid. The faqih doesn't have to be a what? A mujtahid. Mutlaqan. Everybody understand this? But obviously the mujtahid is going to have to be faqih. Everybody understand this? So you take usul, qawaid, and actual dirasa of fiqh with the lugha, with the sarf, with the nahu. Then you study tafsir. The usul, the theory of tafsir. And I read Ibn Kathir from cover to cover. I studied Adwa al-Bayan with my teacher in Medina from cover to cover. I read Tafsir al-Tabari 10 times when I was in Yemen, Methalan. And I studied Usul al-Tafsir with a muallim as well. Everybody understand this? Now, after I read Tabari all those times, I read Ibn Kathir, I studied it with a teacher, I took the mabahith of Usul al-Tafsir from this one and from that one. Now I can pick up any book on Tafsir and what? Everybody understand it? I have tools. Everybody clear on this? وهكذا. You study Tawheed, you study Iman, you study all of the different fields, and you as a talib al-ilm, you have the ability to do what? Pick and choose and place and slice, and because you have ilm, you have fiqh. And you can't have that unless you're well-rounded, unless you're balanced. You have a point from here, a point. Everybody understand this? And then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you're strong enough, and if Allah gives you enough life, then you can specialize in the field. You specialize in fiqh. You specialize in tafsir. You specialize in qira'ah. This person's a muqri, a qari. You specialize in those things. Not somebody that just barely studied something, was overseas for a year, 2 years, 6 months here in Egypt, 3 months here in Yemen, 2 months here in Saudi, Umrah. No, la, abadan. Other marfu. Actual, legitimate time in which you study. A legitimate what? Time in which you study. Formally, under a sheikh, under a teacher. For years. Because you can't study usul al-fiqh, aqeedah, tafsir, tawheed, in what? 6 months. And when you left America, you didn't even speak Arabic. How is that even possible? No matter how talented you were. It's just not enough what? It ain't enough time. It ain't what? Everybody understand this or not? So the importance of going overseas or even studying in America systematically. Doing what? Systematically. And no one is saying that you can't teach a class if you didn't study overseas for 20 years. We're not saying that. Or 10 years or 50. We're not saying that. But you have to know your limits as well. You have to what? You have to know your limits. I studied in Egypt. I studied in South Africa. Alhamdulillah, I'm going to teach some basic classes for the brothers. Tayyib. Fatwas, this, that, filan, traveling, talking about people. We say what? Slow down, yaqi. Pump the brakes just a little bit. Everybody clear on this? So that's how you know what is khas, what's when to use it, when not to use it. You have to have learned the sciences. After you've learned them theoretically, then you practice them by marrying them together. And that's the beauty of fiqh sunnah. Fiqh sunnah gives you everything. How many things we've discussed just out of this one class? Everybody understand this? Hadith is the asl. Hadith is the server. And everything else receives the tea in the cup. Hadith is the one that goes around and pours and pours and pours and pours. And everybody else they say what? Shukran. And they take it and they drink it. The superiority of ilm al-hadith, fiqh of hadith. Wallahu alam. Fadl. أين المتى يا شيخ؟ الله يستر. مصاص خاص ها؟ Special straw. تفضل.
Signing forms, documents. Let's say the person is not around, but they give you permission to sign on their behalf. You sign the name.
Right. If someone gives you the permission to sign on them, and they're not around, and they know what's the signature for, they're clearly aware of it. It's not nothing that's haram. It's something that they know, and it is permissible. And they know ماذا يترتب على التوقيع. They know what is going to come from the signature. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with tawqil in Islam. To make someone your agent, please take care of this. Slaughter my hadith for me. The Prophet ﷺ did. My brother says, you see my wife, divorce her. It's permissible. You go to the marketplace, bring me back what? 3 goats. This is the money I give you, pick out the good goats. And all that's permissible. Tawqil is what? It's permissible in Islam. With those conditions. With those what? With those conditions. You know what's going on. It's not haram. You're signing something that isn't haram. And the person knows what the signature means. Wallahu a'lam.
Idris, is it allowed to break down?
No more questions for Idris for the rest of the night. Next question. Idris can call me personally. He's hogging the disciples' time, huh? Brother Khan.
When something is abrogated, whether it's for or against, is there a hikmah behind it?
Without a doubt. Many wisdoms behind abrogation. From the greatest of them is to show Allah's rahmah, Allah's mercy. It was something and it became burdensome upon the believers, hard upon the believers. And he took it away from them as a rahmah. It's first wisdom. The second wisdom is to show the progressive stages of legislation. The progressive stages is that everything wasn't thrown upon the Muslims all at once. It took time. They developed, they matured, they got stronger in number. They had their own financial system. They had their own resources. Then it became haram. You can't deal with that no more. You can't buy or sell that. But when they were weak, when they were poor, when they were few in numbers, it was permissible. Everybody understand this? And it also goes to show you the care of the Sharia. How the Sharia is looked after. And it's not just sent down, okay, haphazardly. But there's detail, there's knowledge, there's science behind it. And there are other wisdoms as well. Wallahu a'lam.
Nasra, Toronto, Canada, is crying or speaking about one's difficulties to families/friends for advice contradictory to one's level of sabr/tawakkul?
No, it's not contradictory to one's level. Yeah, first and foremost, there's levels of the qadr. When it comes to what the slave does about Allah's qadr, there's levels. First level is sabr, or the qadr in the musibah, an affliction, a problem. There's patience. And obviously there are what? Levels of what? Patience. Somebody says, you don't even know that I'm sick right now, Sheikh Amin. You don't need to know. I could be going through a major problem, but I'm not going to show you. That level of sabr is not necessarily mandatory upon what? Every single person. I have a close friend. I talked to Sheikh Amin Sheikh. I was in the hospital last night, subhanAllah. Alhamdulillah. And I just tell you what happened. How was the conference in Philly? He says, how was your weekend? It was good. I went to the hospital. And I tell him, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not patient with Allah's qadr. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm complaining. It doesn't necessarily mean I have no reward, but it's not the same as I was in the hospital and I didn't even what? He didn't even know. No one knew that I was sick all of these years sitting in front of you and he didn't even know. Because I don't want to complain. I don't want to tell anyone. I don't say nothing. I want my reward to be with Allah 100%. And me telling you that I'm sick ain't going to change what? Anything. You can't cure me. You can't help me. That's one level. And the next level is what? It's a difference. It's not the what? It's not the what? It's not the same. So the concept of the first mandatory level is sabr. وفي الصبر إيش؟ مراتب درجات. The levels of what? Of sabr. The levels of what? Of patience. Everybody understand this? Such as the ulama, they talk about the issue of seeking cure, seeking a remedy. على علاج. هل يجب العلاج؟ يجب التعالج؟ واجب؟ أم مستحب أم مباح فقط ولا مكروه؟ أصابك شيء يجب عليك تذهب إلى المستشفى؟ لا قدر الله عليك أصبت مثلا بمرض السرطان يجب تتعالج ولا يباح لك. Everybody understand this? The concept of seeking remedy, getting medicine, getting cured, is it mandatory or is it permissible? Do you have to, or is it permissible for one to say, I'm going to submit to death? I'm going to submit to the sickness that Allah gave me. I'm not going to fight back. I'm not going to fight the cancer. However long Allah allows me to live, that's what I want to do. That is a level of what? Sabr. That's not necessarily mandatory upon every Abdullah, Ali, and Fulan, Tom, Dick, and Jerry. No. There's levels of sabr. After the sabr comes a rida, comes good pleasure. A person being pleased with Allah's qadr. Pleased with Allah's what? With Allah's qadr. Everybody understand this? And obviously there are levels of what? That as well. This level of rida is not like this person's level of rida. This is the grades that I got in school. Alhamdulillah. I'm happy I graduated, but I really wanted a perfect daraja kamila yani. No doubt about that. I'm not pleased with a 93. I wanted 100. But alhamdulillah. I'm radin. Lakin laysa kaman. It's different levels of contentment and pleasure. Then we have the level of a shukr. Thanking Allah for the musibah. Alhamdulillah. You thank Allah for afflicting you. You thank Allah for testing you, for taking something away from you. That's a high level only a few people want to what? Get to and reach. And we also have the manzilat al-farah, being happy about the musibah. It's not mandatory upon every single person. So if you talk to your friend, it's your close friend, your sister, your girlfriend, you explain to her what's going on in your life. I can't come to class because I have to go to the hospital. Kada, how's the medicine? Can we help you out? La mushkil. There's no problem in that. And that's not necessarily you complaining. Everybody understand this? Innama ashku, What does Allah say? Lakin akhbar. أخبر ولا ما أخبر؟ أخبر في السورة في عدة مواضع في السورة ولا لا؟ He told about his sadness and his grief regarding Yusuf and how he was taken away and how you lied to me and you cheated and you did this. He told us. So there's nothing necessarily haram about that. لقد لقينا في سفرنا هذا نصب تعب إرهاق. هذه يخبر. هذا النبي الله كلم الله عليه السلام. Musa عليه السلام says we became very tired on this what? Trip. Atina ghada'ana. Bring us our lunch, please. We've become exhausted. That's not necessarily complaining. To tell somebody about something is not necessarily what? Complaining, but it depends on how you do it and to who you do it to and how often you do it. Telling somebody once what's going on is not like you keep talking about it and bringing it up and keep whining and complaining. Everybody understand? Just keep what? Whining and complaining, and it takes you away from focusing on what you're supposed to do. It takes you away from making dua, making the necessary supplications that will take away the suffering, take away the pain. Everybody says it depends on how you say it, what you say, and who you say it to, and often how often you say it. And at the end of the day, this is going to be relative. Because in some cultures, the way is not to say anything. And anyone who says something, even if he just talks about it or says it, they say you're weak and you're complaining. Wallahu a'lam.
This is SD from USA, MNEP. What is the ruling of a baby shower?
What is the ruling on a baby shower? I don't know of anything from the kitab or the authentic sunnah or the ijma' of the ulama to make it haram to have a baby shower. Sisters get together, they give her gifts, they prepare food, she prepares food, they sit, they talk, they laugh, they joke, they read some stories, they do henna, they have a party up about the upcoming baby. A gift from Allah, a blessing from Allah. I don't know of anything from the kitab and sunnah that says that that's haram. As far as if it's a religious practice, it's one thing. If it's pertaining to superstition, then that's one thing. But the general concept of we're just having a party, we're just having a meeting, come over to my house, Sheikh Nuh. My wife is about to give birth, yalla, we come, alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for that. Can't necessarily say that that's what? Haram. I can't necessarily say that that's haram. Wallahu alam. We'll stop here. That'll be our last question tonight. Wal ilmu inda Allahi ta'ala.